Hello everyone, so thank you for clicking onto this video. Today, I just want to have a chat. So, I had to learn to stop being so accepting of people that are harshly judgmental and judging me. Like, I could be the nicest person, right? But then the people that I've always been kind to have always betrayed me in some way. So being able to still love and still be the same person that I am, even despite all of those things, has really brought me far in life. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when you go through something constantly over and over again, and you're the type of person that takes lessons from the experiences that you've been through in life, it's like people don't realize that trying the same thing over and over again eventually teaches you everything you need to know. It basically teaches you the blueprint, right? So I basically understand and I can recognize signs of deception, manipulation, and a lot of people, oftentimes they'll come into my life and they'll be thinking that, oh, like, this is easy. Watch me try to sabotage this person. Watch me try to ruin what they got going on. And here I am just minding my business, because people like that typically often go after people that are like that, right? That just mind their business and stay to themselves and are meek and shy and composed. That is the ideal typical target for people with false intentions, right? So of all my experience and all my years learning a lot of different things about different people. And here's the thing that I realized is that it's not necessarily the person, it's the spirit within that person that jumps from person to person and kind of like attaches themselves to that person. But the person has to open that door and allow themselves to be used as a vessel for energy that is lower than them, right? Or creates, okay, so here's how I can best explain it. So a person's desires, deep down, their deepest desires, is what's gonna drive them to create the psychological alignment that is ideal for different spirits to attach to their vessel and use their vessel as kind of like a vehicle, right, to their goal or their desire. And I'm kind of speaking in a way that's kind of like more on a spiritual level, right? This is something that happens spiritually. This is, you have to create the ideal conditions for the spirit to thrive within a particular environment, right? So a lot of times people do this without even realizing it, and so they become a vessel for a spirit to attach themselves to them and basically control them without even realizing it. And I think a lot of people become possessed without even realizing that they are possessed, without even realizing. That's why a lot of the time when people do things, sometimes, and you ask them why, sometimes they can't come up with an answer. Sometimes they can't even tell you why. It's because they're being possessed by a spirit, okay? And spirits are all around us. And honestly, I find it very intriguing and cool and interesting, because even though you can't see them, that doesn't mean that they're not there. Even though you can't see certain things, or you can't physically see it or touch it with your hands, that doesn't mean that it's not there, okay? So like people say, God is always with you. God is always listening to you. God hears you. God sees you when you cry. He counts your tears, and those tears are going to be the same things that bring you blessings later on in life. A lot of the times when people cry and they're crying out, that is a spiritual signal that gets sent to the higher powers that be, okay? Whatever that is for you. We don't have to get into religion or anything like that. I am respectful of any religion, so however that makes sense to you, right? So some people believe in God, some people believe in Allah, some people believe in, Buddhism. So it's different for everyone, but I do believe that there's a spiritual aspect to everything that we experience in this world. Everything happens in the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical. And I truly am a firm believer that things happen for a reason. So nothing is coincidental, okay? People come into your life for a reason. Things change in your life for a reason, okay? Whether that reason is you or not you, the only thing you know you can control is yourself. Okay, you can't control other people and what they do, but you can control how you react to it. So, what over the years, basically my entire life, over the years of me learning how this kind of works, right, is the only way you can really combat people on a spiritual level is through your words, through your energy, through your mind, through the power of thought, prayer. I think that's the most effective way to really handle problems and really handle situations in your life. Because if you really think about it, your word is what carries you through life. So the things that you talk about, the things that you think about, these all manifest into physical reality. So even though you can't see words, right? Words are intangible. They're non-physical. You can't see a word unless it's written on paper, right? But that's the strongest form of communication. That's the strongest form of making something happen. That's the strongest method of manifesting things into your life, right? So the power of your word is so powerful, and I think a lot of people underestimate this. And sometimes your word can be your biggest enemy, or it can be your greatest friend. And so a lot of people, they kind of put their foot in their mouth when they speak, and they don't realize the implications that can have on your life, right? Give me a second. I just think it's very fascinating how your word can really change your whole life. Let me put this on silent. Yeah, but words can have such a big implication on your life, and sometimes the conversations that people have can land them in jail, it can land them in the hospital, it can land them in their next biggest chapter of their life. But you got to understand that we are only in a chapter in the book of life. So things are constantly changing, things are constantly evolving. And so when I was younger, I used to love words. Every time I didn't know a word, I would look it up in the dictionary, right? And so that's why I learned how to become really good with words. And honestly, I think it's a natural talent for me. I was a poet. I mean, I've won multiple poetry slams and different awards for my poetry and my writing in general, right? So I think words are one of the most powerful things in this world, because there's so many different translations, there's so many different ways that you can make a word become physically in your hands, right? I mean, the government was built off of words. The government was built off of a document of words. And that's how that started, right? So I say all this to say is that I think it's the best way to understand that spirits are non-tangible things, but people make themselves a host. They make themselves a vessel for to be used as a vehicle to achieve their desires. And that's kind of like how people have always around me, especially people have always been around me, and there's a spirit that has attached themselves to everyone that I considered close or that I held close to me to try to destroy something, okay? And I believe that this is something that jumps from person to person because of something that is within me, okay? This is something that is spiritually kind of like a light, like moths to a flame. Okay, some people hold a light within themselves, and it doesn't have to be anything tangible. I could be wearing, like sweatpants and have a messy bun, but it's not about how I physically look. It's about the energy that I carry within, and that's what attracts this spirit that's been following me all throughout my life, that's been gaslighting me, that's been doing all these things, right? And it's always the similar thing that they do, always the same trick, always the same tactics that they use. Hang on. So I say all this to say that I recognize a pattern, right? So this is a pattern that I have experienced growing up and being close to everyone that I was close to, or people that I considered close. It's like they all tried the same tactics. They all tried to do similar things, or they all had like similar mindsets, right? But deep down, they all had desires, whether or not they wanted to admit it or not, that allowed them to be a host or used as a vessel for a spirit to use them as kind of like a vehicle to achieve their goals, right? So that is why they started to behave in certain ways. And that's why a lot of people behave in certain ways, because they are allowing themselves to be used as a host, as a vessel, as a vehicle. And this is often why they end up in situations where the spirit has been sent from. Okay, so a spirit has possessed them and led them spiritually to a place in their life that most would call like hell on earth, right? It's because they were used as a spirit. And that is why a lot of times it will manifest itself as unstableness, toxicity, negativity, things that are not good for your health. And sometimes people will break out in hives. Sometimes people will have physical symptoms, okay? And this is a whole nother thing. So once a person allows himself to be used as a spirit, used by a spirit lower than their own self, right? These spirits, they want to possess someone. That is what they want, because they, as a human being, we possess something that all spirits want, which is to be a physical being, right? So that is why spirits will attach themselves to a human, because they want to become a physical human being. And a lot of the times you'll hear the saying, the lights are on but nobody's home. That is a sign of kind of like a spiritual host, right? A host, an ideal host for a spirit. And a lot of the times this will manifest physically on that person as kind of like a smell, like a stench, or maybe an illness. Maybe they're sick, maybe they're breaking out in hives, maybe they got some type of disease. These are all spirits that are attaching themselves to that person, right? That person is literally physically rotting from the inside out. And the thing is, when you come into contact with people like this, it's like that spirit can attach itself onto you, and it can attack you as well, okay? And then you will begin to inhabit those traits. You will begin to exhibit those physical symptoms, okay? This can manifest as so many things. There's a list that goes on, and sometimes there's not even a medical study or research, because it just manifests itself in different ways, okay? So you can exhibit any type of those symptoms. And that happens when people choose to operate out of their lower self that allows them to be used as a host. Now, whereas if you want to be clean, it's important to keep spiritual hygiene, because when your heart is pure, nothing sticks to you, okay? And that is something that I learned over my years of just experiencing this spiritual warfare, this attack on my life that has been going on since before I was born, since I was in the womb since after, and basically all my life until now, okay? So I'm able to recognize and foresee those symptoms, those signs that somebody is trying to, or something is trying to attach itself to me, okay? And that is because their ultimate desire deep down within is to be physically, on the physical realm, achieve their dream or their goal, okay? And sometimes people can achieve that in a not so good way, but then there's also the way that is the righteous way. And that really a lot of people have, well, everyone has the same desires and the same goals in life, and that is to be physically affluent, that is to be abundant, that is to be prosperous, that is to be maybe rich or wealthy or have love in their life, okay? But the journey to getting to that goal is different for everyone, and how you choose to operate to achieve that goal, that is a different story, and that is a spiritual that is the spiritual aspect to the situation. So in the physical world, yes, things are very simple, right? Everybody is human. We are physical. We can use our hands, and we can speak, and we can operate and move. But what we don't realize is just ourselves. Being able to wake up in the morning is something that people often take for granted. Is just being able to breathe, being able to smell and experience the senses of life, and be able to taste things, see, feel, be able to hear things, listen to music. These are all things that people take for granted. And when they take things for granted, that is when they begin to like dip down into that lower version of themselves, okay? Which oftentimes they do not appreciate what they already have, but only what they cannot have. I just find it very interesting because I have learned how to navigate and how to maneuver around different types of energies and recognize the signs, because your body will physically reject somebody who is spiritually ill or maybe has spirits attached to them. Now, I know that when I was dealing with a certain person in my life, okay, I did not have acne before I was dealing with that person. I was doing well in life. I was a go-getter. I was working a job. I was going to college, learning, trying different things, kind of just trying to better myself and achieve my goals in the righteous way, because I know that when I do right, I don't have to worry about having to backtrack or lose things, right? Because when you do things the right way, you never have to worry about losing or the carpet being pulled out from underneath you. If you're doing things correctly, you are protected spiritually, okay? So whatever is thrown your way will not stick to you. And you can be a good person and have misfortune, right? But it's about how you choose to respond to the misfortune that really brings out that desired outcome in your life, okay? You are only responsible for yourself and not what is happening around you. In a way, yes, we are all feeling like we all feel each other's energy on this planet. We all share this world together, and all of our energies affect each other. We are all kind of like, think about it like this. Think of a pool that is clear water that you can see all the way down to the bottom. It's beautiful. And then certain people get to that environment and the water starts to turn brown. Plants start to die. The water starts to have a smell to it. It becomes a negative place, and then it starts to repel all the good energy, because purity only resides in clean places, okay? So when you keep your home clean, when you keep your environment clean, that is where positivity can thrive. That is where happiness can be used. Happiness wants to reign. That is where peace and prosperity finds the ideal climate to thrive, okay? So treat your body the same way you would want your environment to be treated. Be clean, spiritually clean, have a pure heart, because that is what's going to repel the negative energies from attaching themselves to you, okay? So, yes, it's important to understand that this is all a part of the divine plan, and we are all experiencing the same life in different versions of the same life. We are all experiencing different versions of the same consciousness. All right, gotta understand, we are all different but the same. And that is the part that fascinates me so much, because it's crazy to think about, right? We are also, it's kind of like snowflakes, how no snowflake is exactly the same. And yeah. So if you want to protect yourself and you want to be spiritually protected, understand that when your heart is pure, nothing that is thrown at you can stick to you, okay? So when I was dealing with that person, I was doing really well, right? And as I got to know this person, I began to break out. Bad things started to happen to me. I started losing things. I started declining. I started staying home more. I started not going out as much. I started staying to myself. I started isolating and losing friends, family, opportunities. And that was because that person's energy, they were being used as a host. You can actually smell when something spiritual happens, okay? So for example, like when death happens, there's a very distinct smell of death, okay? And that is a very spiritual thing, right? You can't see a smell, but it's there. So that's kind of like a sign to pay attention to, is you want to pay attention to how this person makes you feel. If your body is physically rejecting them, okay, so you can become sick, you can start to lose things, bad things can happen, you can get into fights, you might want to stay home more, just all of these negative things. And a lot of the time you want to pay attention to that, because that means that someone around you is being used as a vessel, as a host for an unclean spirit, okay? And a lot of the times, I know me personally, the spirit jumps from person to person, okay? So every time somebody gets close to me, it's like that spirit kind of like takes over, and I start to see signs of just negativity, signs of people taking more than they're giving. I'm losing things. I'm, I'm starting to feel more recluse. I'm starting to isolate myself. These are all signs of an unclean spirit around you, okay? So an unclean spirit is a spirit that has bad intentions, okay? A spirit that is negative, a spirit that only wants to cause harm, a spirit that only wants to cause damage, okay? So you just have to be careful, because a lot of the times there are signs before something catastrophic happens, okay? So that is something that I had to learn. A lot of the times, that is why a lot of us are in fight or flight mode and things like that, because we're recovering from something spiritual. And this actually led me to my awakening. And so that is why it has become a lot easier for me to literally foresee events and foretell events that have actually come to pass, by the way. So a lot of people tend to doubt the spiritual aspect of things, and a lot of people can't even perceive beyond the three-dimensional world. Some people literally can't even grasp the fact that we are spiritual beings on a physical realm, okay? So some people, they only see what they can see. Some people only can see what they can touch, what they can feel, okay? And that is why a lot of people tend to turn to feeding the flesh instead of the soul, and that leads to disintegration of the body. So there's a lot of signs of that. So it's really important to widen your perspective and see things from a different point of view, okay? Because sometimes your spirit will tell you something before anything happens to you in the physical. So that's something to pay attention to, and definitely keep an eye out. If this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, or maybe enlightened you to a different perspective, feel free to give a like, comment, and subscribe. And definitely check out my Instagram. I'll leave all the information in my description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys again in the next one. Bye.